Hello? Mm-hmm. Yeah. A sponsorship? No, I'm not taking a sponsorship for Raid Shadow Legends. Because I have better standards than that, that's why. You'll pay me how much now? Hello, nuts and nerds, and welcome back to a Squirrel Plays. Today we're going to be talking about a monster that I made, and if you're wondering why, it's because I feel like I've done too many ttrpg reviews of late. I do really enjoy making those videos because I get to try out new systems and I get to meet new people, but that isn't the only thing we do around here, or at least as far as I know. We're supposed to be stretching our creative muscles and getting the brains working, inspiration, or something like that. And a couple of months or so back, I was piddling around and experimenting with some ttrpg mechanics, and for some reason or another, I had the idea for an interesting monster. And in preparation for this video, I may or may not have done more brainstorming than I needed to do. So feel free to use this monster in your own games, and if you do, please tell me how it goes. As for me and my writing, I don't know if it would fit into the Keshvanite Legends universe, but you never know. But I got enough problems over there, so I don't know if I need to add to it.
I'm your ice cream man, stop me when I'm passing by.
Alright, so what is this monster's name? We're going to call him Still Sting, and you know why we're going to call him that? Because it sounds a lot better than open bracket, placeholder, close bracket. Or at least I think so, but that's just me. Seriously, that is the only reason. You can call him whatever you want. But what is this thing? What does it look like? Don't know, and it really doesn't matter at this point. See, a professional YouTuber would tease you with the interesting part about this creature, but then save that for the end of the video and then put a bunch of filler in the middle so he can get more watch time. But since I like watching my videos crash and burn and I respect your time, I'm going to start with what I thought was the good stuff and then go from there. So let's just pretend that Still Sting is a giant spider for now, because big fantasy spider monsters are fun. Even though personally I was leaning more towards a scorpion, especially with the tail, but more on that later. I should also point out that Still Sting here lives in caves and is more of an ambush type of predator. Now, what is so special about him, or her, I'm not judging, it's 2025, your spider can be whatever it wants. It's the venom. If this stuff gets in your blood, it is game over. Not only do you become completely paralyzed, but your body is essentially frozen in time while you're still conscious and able to see. And what exactly do I mean by that? I mean that despite being able to think and see clearly, you are unable to move, which is already fairly terrifying, right? But the venom keeps your body perfectly preserved, meaning you will not rot, decay, starve, or whatever. Essentially, your body is just stuck. To make it a little more spooky, I thought it would be neat if the creature had some sort of silk or webbing it could make that it would partially wrap its victims in. Not a full wrap and cocoon like spiders do, but just enough to cover you and keep you secure. But why a venom that keeps you perfectly preserved? Because the creature eats very rarely. There's a long time between meals. The creature also likes to capture more prey than it needs while meticulously storing them upright in one of its caves so you can have a nice view while standing there all petrified and whatnot. I really like the idea of the monster being very particular about its storage area, making sure each body is evenly spaced out. If one were to fall over or somehow go missing, it'd spend several minutes, if not hours, rearranging what is essentially its pantry to get it back in its tip-top shape. Now, I did also have the idea that it stores food for the eggs that also take years to hatch. So imagine sitting there for years on end staring at a couple of eggs as you wait for them to pop. Worse yet, when the eggs do pop, the babies stay in that room for a long while as they grow, gradually taking one person at a time to feed on. It's a little morbid, isn't it? Now, that's creepy and all, but there's something else to consider. What happens if a band of adventurers pass through here and slay the mighty beast and say, don't know that the beast keeps a supply of living food storage? Alright, so let's say the monster is dead. Now we have all these people wrapped up in silk and paralyzed, but conscious at the same time. They're there for years on end, unable to move or speak, but their minds just keep on working. Eventually, the venom does finally wear off and they can break free. And at that point, it'd probably be safe to say they'd be just a little bit crazy, right?
You'd be crazy too if you didn't hit that like and subscribe button. Ho-ho!
Actually, Billy, I got some bad news for you, man. HR wants to talk to you about your comment in the last video. But being a fantasy world where strange things happen and there's magic in the air, let's say something else happens other than them just losing their marbles. Let's say there's a whole bunch of people that were captured by this beast and one by one they're waking up. These people, barely able to speak to one another anymore, seem to stick together and form their own little community. They choose to live inside the cave that held them for hundreds of years, building very crude structures within. The venom that lingered in their body for so long has changed them. They are now able to communicate with one another seemingly without words all throughout this cave system, as though each individual is connected with one another. We could also say they don't sleep anymore, and we'll blame it on the fact they were stuck for hundreds of years or making up for lost time. And perhaps they even age much, much slower, which is yet another side effect of the venom that was in their system for so long. A very strange but interesting people, definitely one that would keep to themselves and have little to nothing to do with the outside world. As a matter of fact, most people of the world probably wouldn't even know these folks existed, and even if they did, it wouldn't matter much as communication with them would be very difficult. I imagine their speech would be very broken and heavily reliant on that unspoken language mentioned earlier, which, nobody else can hear or understand. As for a specific character, I thought it might be kind of neat if a monk of some sort was captured by the beast and among these awakened people. Instead of panicking the entire time he was paralyzed, he spent the whole time meditating. He calmly watched people be taken one by one, and once the beast was slain, he watched for many more years as the people woke up and built their community. He has the same abilities as everyone else, and maybe a few more since he's not totally out of it. However, he does choose to live among these people still, not because he's drawn to them like the rest of them are, but because he has chosen to care and watch over them, knowing they're not quite right anymore. Or perhaps he considers them to be enlightened in their own way and thinks he can learn more from them. Alright, so let's say you want to use this in a TTRPG game. What might you do with it? Now, I'm not going to sit here and make a stat block for each system because I think that would be silly. What you do with it is up to you, but I can at least share with you what I might do if I were to use it. First off, I was leaning more towards the scorpion side of things, like I mentioned earlier, mostly because I want a tail with a stinger on the end of it, but check this out. Obviously, a stinger that big would just be the death of you if it stabbed you, so instead of that, let's say it just sprays some of the venom first, and you could have some fun with that. Let's say you fail dodging out of the way of the spray, but it only gets on your legs. Your legs are now paralyzed, but you can still shoot a crossbow if you have one, drink potions, or even try to crawl away. The venom spray might just touch a single arm, making combat a bit more difficult, but still leaves you with a fighting chance. The monster will try to spray the venom on you until you are completely unable to move, and that's when it approaches you and very carefully injects the venom directly into your bloodstream with a prick of the stinger, so you stay paralyzed until dinner time. Now, there's a couple extra things that come with scorpions that may or may not make things too difficult, depending on how realistic you want to get with this giant fantasy creature with magical venom. Scorpions tend to have a very crunchy exterior with all that natural armor plating they got going on, so that could significantly raise the difficulty of your adventurers trying to inflict damage on this thing. Technically, you can just say their swords pierce without a hitch, but it is something to consider. That's why you could make it a nice fleshy spider that their weapons can sink directly into a bit more easily. Scorpions also tend to have some nasty little grippers on them too, so that's a whole other method of attacking and wrecking the party. And not to sound like I'm on a high horse or anything, but in a TTRPG setting, I don't consider these kind of things too important. The creature gets a turn just like everyone else, so maybe it chooses its pinchers, maybe it sprays venom, whatever. As a player, we expect it to do one or two things, and then we get to have our turn because it's a game. When you're riding, though, I feel like you have to consider all the moving parts a little bit more. What are those nasty claws doing while its tail is rearing back and getting ready to spray? Is the creature large enough to just walk over the adventurers and crush them with its legs while chopping the others in half with its claws? You don't want to end up like those silly fight scenes in movies where all the bad guys politely wait their turn to get wrecked, right? Now, any sensible person would probably want to steer clear of this beast, right? But what if you had reason to risk going into the cave? Maybe mushrooms grow in its cave that absorb some of the stray venom spray. These mushrooms can be used to create some pretty wild potions for slowing down your agent, or something to coat your weapons with that paralyzes your foes. Or, hey, maybe it just gets you high as a kite. The silk this creature creates to wrap up its prey might be super durable, meaning it's basically flexible armor, kind of like the idea of magical dragon scales being so strong. Now, of course, if that were the case, then the victims that were never rescued would probably never be able to tear their way out of their wrappings. But hey, we don't care about silly things like logic, right? You could also have a weird cult that lives nearby and worships the creature. Every so often, somebody's chosen to be offered to the creature. The cult think this is a good and wonderful thing and that they'll be in a heavenly bliss for hundreds of years before being consumed. Weird things like that. My point is, the fun stuff isn't just the monster. It's also what he does to his surroundings. I mean, heck, maybe this monster is the entire reason there's a tunnel passage through a set of mountains that now connects two cities. Or maybe there's a small town nearby that's scared to death of it and have the cave entrance completely marked off so nobody walks in by mistake. Super exciting stuff there, right? You get the idea. Have fun with it. Do what you want with it. Change it, modify it. Make it a goblin that passes gas instead. I don't care. It's your world, man. I'm just living in it. And with that, I think I'll do the shout out and get us out of here. And today's shout out is a little bit different because it goes over to a user on Pixabay, or at least an account. Not sure if it's one person or what. But man, like 99% of the time when I go there to grab something, it's always this guy. And the funny part is his avatar is a squirrel. And I promise that's not the reason I use his stuff. It just happens to work out that way. But whether it's the guns, all the musical instruments, or even the entire studio setup me and Jacob were in, I always seem to grab this guy's stuff when I'm scrolling through Pixabay. I just thought it was kind of funny because of the squirrel pic. But anyway, that's all I got. Hope you get something useful out of this one. I had a lot of fun working on the creature behind the scenes before I made the video, and I don't know if the video was even needed or not, but here we are. And here we aren't.